Just a second. Okay, what I want to talk about today is about how to get the ultimate adrenaline boost. Now, if you think it's jumping out of a plane or racing car racing or doing some sort of crazy bungee jumping, it's not that. This is something that costs you virtually nothing, and you can probably do it at home, depending on where you live and how you live. But before I get there, there's another topic I want to talk about, and it's about ants. And I'll get to the relevance of why I want to talk about ants later on. But I just want to cover a few details about ants that I researched that I found quite interesting. Now, ants typically are in different size colonies. So they're very social insects. So they're in small colonies, medium-sized, large colonies. Now, a typical colony consists of a queen ant and many worker ants and a brood. Now, the brood you will find is larvae, pupa, and eggs. Now, it's quite interesting because typically there's one queen ant to a nest, and there are many worker ants. All the worker ants are female, all of them, except they're sterile, so they can't lay eggs. And it's interesting because what happens is when the ants develop, if they're male, they normally have wings, and some of the queens that are born will have wings. Now, they only stay in the nest for a very short period of time because they go out of the nest and then they meet each other and mate and create new nests. So that's how new nests and colonies are formulated. Now, what does a worker ant do all day? Well, it's quite interesting because there's quite a strong division in labour between what the worker ants do. And it's not just about the size of the ant, because you can get all ranges of size of ants within a colony. And some of the bigger ones may be foraging, maybe doing defence or construction. Some of the smaller ones may be tending the brood. Or, in some cases, all of the worker ants are broken up and they're doing a range of activities. Now, that can depend on the age of the ant as well, because what can happen in some colonies where there will be the smaller, the young, and the just sort of born ants, they can be tending the brood, and as they progress and get larger, they may then go on to do construction and maintenance. Then, moving on from there, they may then do the foraging. So once they're later in life, when they're probably not as strong, they're out foraging through the bush trying to look for food sources. Now you're probably wondering, well, why choose ants? How do I link ants with adrenaline? Well, my daughter got an ant farm for Christmas as a present. Now this ant farm is about this big in size. So the idea is to find an ant's nest, dig it up so you can get some of the eggs, the pupa, the larvae into the nest, as well as at least 15 to 20 ants. Now you would think, well, that would be easy, right? So on the weekend, went with a spade, went with a shovel, went with this stupid little container like this. But just to cover all bases, I took an ice cream container this big, empty of course. So we went down into the bush and I dug up one and I thought, oh my God, there's an ant's nest there. These little black ants running around. There's some eggs there, and I thought, oh, they're kind of boring. They're not, they're sort of running around, but they're not doing much. So I thought, okay, let's go further. We want big ants. So I kept looking around, and then we finally came across. I saw this hole in the ground. This hole is about this big, and I thought, well, there could be ants in that. You have to be careful, like there's snakes, funnel webs, all sorts of range of spiders in the bush where we are. So I thought, look, I'll just be careful. So I said that, but I dug the shovel right down in deep. I turned it over, and there were these ants. They are this big. They are some of the biggest ants I've ever seen. And I worked out what they were. They're called jack jumpers. Do you have any idea what a jack jumper ant is? If you had to say, what's the most venomous ant we have in Australia. It's the jack jumper. Now, most ants bite. A jack jumper doesn't bite. It stings. It's like a wasp. So it has a sting on the tail. It has these massive pincers on the front, as big as as long as its whole head is wide. They are massive. So I thought, well, this is interesting. These are interesting ants. We have to be very careful. But as soon as I flipped the soil over, they were everywhere. And look, having an ant farm is meant to be something that you enjoy. That's enjoyable. But this was I could feel my heart just start pounding. Oh my God, what do I do? Because one thing about jack jumper ants is they don't just move around, walk around. They're called jack jumper ants because they jump. The ants jump. They can jump a few inches. So you'll see them moving along and they go jump, 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 like this. And just having a whole nest of these ants just going, hundreds of them just going crazy around like that. And quick, get some. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to get into that small container. So I dug in some, shoved it in the ice cream container, and then had to get the lid on it. So I had gloves on, luckily. So I quickly shoved the lid on and extracted it out of there, tried to get all the ants off it that were on the container. So we quickly got out of there, got home, and this is with my daughter screaming most of the way. So it wasn't just adrenaline for me, it was adrenaline for her, and Ethan was a bit more calm about it, I think because he was standing a few metres back from us. So we got home and then we had to extract, how do we get the ants from there and the soil and the pupa into this little tiny ant farm? Well, it took hours. First of all, I just dumped out the ice cream container on the ground, just ants everywhere, waited for them to disperse a bit. This is on the grass. Then I got out a scoopful of the eggs and the soil, stuck them in the ant farm, and then had to catch one by one, going around putting a little jar onto the ant, trying to scoop it up, and then trying to get it into the actual ant farm. We got about eight ants. And it's very interesting to see what they do. What does an ant do all day? They just work. Well, okay, I have to say 7 of them have died. There's one left, and this one is just relentless. I watch it for half an hour. I've never been so fascinated in all my life. This ant just works and works and works. So I would clear out this side container in the morning, it's full up again. It just pulls out bits of dirt it doesn't like, don't know what the difference is, bits of leaves and twigs, pulls them out, drags them out and puts them into this side container that's joined to the ant farm. And it's just doing this and moving the larvae around inside. And it's fascinating to watch. And I guess that's why an ant farm is meant to be enjoyable. But now, every day I have to feed them. I have to, well, the one. I have to make sure there's water in there, and I can't just leave it to my daughter because it's a bit dangerous for her to do it. So every day I get this adrenaline hit while I have to deal with these ants because I have to pull a bit of it apart to get the food in. So thanks very much.
So 7 died and you only left with 1.
Yep.